everybody. This is Dr. Forth, and seasonal allergy relief is the topic that I'm covering today. It's actually May as I'm recording this, and I live in the southern part of the US, so we've actually been having allergy situations since about February. But up north, it's just now starting to be allergy season. As an allergy sufferer, I wanted to share some of my tips for relief. Now, I just want to mention we're not talking about severe allergic reactions such as for bee sting or peanut allergy or shellfish. Those are severe allergic reactions that usually require an EpiPen and medical intervention. That's called an anaphylactic reaction, and it can be very dangerous. What I'm talking about here is reaction to environmental allergies. Now, it is possible for people with environmental allergies to develop anaphylaxis, but it's very rare. Usually it's with the insect stings or food type allergies that become anaphylactic. So we're not talking about that with these kinds of recommendations. So I've had allergies all my life. And in fact, when I was a young kid and they took me to get detailed diagnosis of all the things I was allergic to, they actually brought in nursing and medical students to watch me react because I am allergic to a whole bunch of things. What is an allergy? An allergy is really where your immune system basically freaks out and reacts to something like dust or pollen as if it was a serious, dangerous pathogen. So it unleashes the immune system, and that's where you get the itchy, watery eyes and the congestion and so forth, because the immune system is reacting to those allergens. And so, what we're looking for are ways to help reduce that because it's very uncomfortable. And allergies can lead to sinus congestion and eventually sinus infection, which we definitely do not want to have. So, some of the things that are used, antihistamines, these are available over the counter or by prescription. Histamine is an inflammatory mediator. It's a chemical messenger that's released by the body in response to inflammation. So antihistamines are going to suppress that response. Now, some antihistamines or allergy medications target other chemicals besides just histamine. We still call them antihistamines. Now, some of the old school antihistamines are known for significant fatigue and drowsiness. And that can be really difficult, especially if you're trying to be awake and work or driving. Very dangerous if you're taking those kinds of meds. The antihistamines, even the newer generation, still have problems with dry mouth and dry eyes. You can have dizziness and headache associated with that. The newer ones are meant to cause a little bit less fatigue, but I still notice that it causes fatigue. So I do a lot of natural things to try and help reduce my allergic response so that I don't have to have as many antihistamines. Decongestants, as the name would suggest, is to help get rid of mucus and congestion. And they work by thinning out the mucus. See, your cells in your respiratory tract, they're always producing mucus, and that is a normal, appropriate function. It's supposed to help keep those membranes moist, and it also helps to trap any dust or pollen or anything that you inhale, kind of to filter it before it gets to the lungs. So mucus is good. It's doing what it's supposed to. But we don't want really, really thick mucus that creates pressure and congestion. So the decongestants help to thin the mucus They also reduce swelling in the mucous membranes and those respiratory passages. And initially, when you take them, they can really relieve the pressure. The way they do that is essentially by constricting blood vessels. And so when you constrict the vessels, that takes out the swelling and it opens up those air passages. Great. So now you can breathe. But eventually, those vessels are going to go back to their normal state. And regular use of these decongestant medications significantly decreases its effectiveness. So over time, you'll notice if you're taking decongestant and taking decongestant, it just doesn't seem to be working anymore. And that's true because the mechanism that it uses to relieve that congestion becomes less effective when you have regular use of it. And another thing that happens with the decongestant is you can get hypertension or elevated blood pressure that develops over time. So that's definitely not a good thing. So we want to try and do as much as we can to minimize the allergic reaction and decrease sinus congestion and pressure. So the first thing is reducing exposure to allergens. So you can track the pollen count and try and stay inside as much as possible on the days when the pollen count is elevated. There's so many apps that have the pollen count, so that should be a pretty easy thing to find. You can also use a mask. Now, I know everybody hated the masks during the COVID era, but you know what I noticed? I was wearing not the N95, although I do have some of those like for the office, but just regular usage, the little surgical masks. It made a huge difference. My allergy symptoms were drastically reduced. So, if you do need to be outside, like in your garden or something, or you're going to be outside, maybe taking a walk, you can wear that mask, and that makes a big difference. Also, remove shoes and jackets when you come back inside. Wash hands and face. Good filtration on your HVAC system is important not just for the functioning of the system, but it also improves indoor air quality significantly. Vacuuming and dusting regularly. I really like the microfiber cloths for dusting. First of all, because it's washable, so you're not just creating a whole bunch of trash in the landfill, which I don't like those disposable duster things for that reason. But the microfibers also tend to pick up dust really, really well. You want to make sure that you also, if you have pets, you can wipe them down when they come inside. Sometimes they're not super cooperative with the wipe down idea, but if there's a treat after being wiped down, then they might like that better. And it's also good for them because they're like little furry magnets collecting pollen and dust, and they can start having allergy problems as well. So wiping them down when they come inside is good for both of you. Making sure that you keep the humidity in your home at an appropriate level. So it should be under 50% in the summer, between 30 to 40% in the winter. We don't want to have a lot of condensation when we're running the heat in the winter. So any more than 40%, you start getting condensation. But if it's too low, like below 30, you get chapped lips and dry, cracked skin. So that's not good either. Humidity is important for controlling mold and also dust mites, which is another common allergen. So for the dust mites, make sure that you have allergy-proof casings around your mattress and box spring and also your pillows. I remember the first ones I got, it was some kind of fabric that was actually noisy, almost like plastic when you move around on the bed. Thank goodness we've got much better materials now. no sound at all for moving, and certainly not on the pillow either. It's nice and comfortable. You want good quality pillows that you can wash. When you wash your bedding or your pillows, hot water. And I like to add borax. It's powder. You can just get it at the supermarket. I like to add borax to my wash when I'm doing laundry of bedding and pillows. That just helps to clean them that much more. So encasing around the mattress and box spring and pillow and washing regularly, maintaining humidity at an appropriate level. If you find that you have a mold problem, it's a good idea to get a mold remediation company to come in, because if you have it in your walls and all that, they have to remove it a special way for safety. So be aware of that if you actually develop mold problems. Hygrometers are instruments that measure humidity, and you can get those at different retailers. They're not very expensive. Maintaining appropriate hydration. I've talked in other videos about this. This is important because, as I said, the mucus secretion from those respiratory membranes, that's normal and appropriate physiological activity. But if you're really dehydrated, it impairs the mucus secretion, or the mucus gets really thick. That's definitely not going to be helpful for allergies. When the mucus is thick, it doesn't flow as well, so it tends to cause congestion. So make sure that you are appropriately hydrated. General practices to decrease inflammation. I've talked about this on a lot of my videos because it's so important for lots of different things. Body pain, preventing cardiovascular disease, and also allergies. So reducing sugar and grains. Yes, grains are generally pro-inflammatory. Dairy can actually increase mucus production. So if you're having a lot of mucus, you want to reduce or eliminate dairy. I have found I'm not a big milk drinker. In fact, I don't ever drink milk, but I like a bit of cream in my coffee. Unsweetened coconut milk works well for me. So if it's not unsweetened, you're going to have a whole lot of sugar. All of those plant-based milk products have a ton of sugar if you don't get explicitly the unsweetened one. So I like unsweetened coconut milk, and that works well in my coffee. Butter doesn't seem to cause a problem. I mean, how much butter could you possibly consume? A little on your toast or something, that's okay. But eating a lot of cheese or drinking a lot of milk can definitely increase the amount of mucus that you're having to deal with. Other anti-inflammatory nutritional recommendations: ginger and turmeric spices are great. You can put those in lots of your food, or even if you're making smoothies, you can get the chunks of ginger and turmeric and put a little piece before you blend all of your materials. That's really good for reducing inflammation. Pineapple and papaya have enzymes that help break up mucus and reduce inflammation. Now, pineapple and papaya are really high sugar fruits. So if sugar is a problem for you, you can get those actually in tablet form. They're usually chewable and they're marketed as digestive enzymes. You see those at like health food stores, but it has the enzymes bromelain and papain, and those are both good for reducing mucus and inflammation. Plants can improve your indoor air quality. There's lots of different plants that help with this. Spider plants and English ivy are particularly good at this, as well as pothos. You want to make sure that it is safe for pets if you have pets. I know spider plants are usually okay, but the English ivy and pothos can have issues. So if you have pets, make sure you look into that before you bring in plants. The plants can help improve the air quality not just from allergens, but removing things like formaldehyde and so forth that comes from carpet and upholstery. So all of those are going to help with improving air quality. Make sure that you pay attention to the humidity though, because if you have a whole lot of plants inside, that's going to naturally increase your humidity. So the hygrometer will help you monitor that. I hope that you found some good information. Make sure that you like and subscribe so you can see my next video.